Hey, Keeniacs and Everydayers, this is Zach, your host of Locked On Hurricanes, doing a little bit different intro than usual. As basically the start of this episode is going to be talking about how we as fans and just people in general can help the residents of Western North Carolina deal with the devastation of Hurricane Helen and how we can try to provide some relief to them when it comes to the game on October 2nd against the Nashville Predators, along with a GoFundMe that has been started by a fellow Carolina Hurricanes fan. And then later on in the episode, we're going to talk about Rod Brind'Amour and Sean Walker's post games from last Friday's matchup against the Florida Panthers, along with talking about how Jackson Blake has done so far this preseason and in camp. All of that on a Monday's episode of Locked On Hurricanes.
You're Locked On Hurricanes, your daily podcast on the Carolina Hurricanes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to a Monday edition of Locked On Hurricanes, your team every day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you to the Everydayer for making this your first listen of the day. 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, talking everything about your Carolina Hurricanes. I'm your host, Zach Martin. I am the Carolina Hurricanes credentialed beat writer over at the Hockey Writers. I'm also the Chicago Wolves columnist for Wolves Weekly, which will be starting up here very soon. I'm the co-host of the Search Cast, a weekly Carolina Hurricanes podcast, along with all of my duties here at Locked On Hurricanes. So like I said at the start of the show, we are going to be talking about how we can provide some relief for Hurricane Helen and everyone over there in Western North Carolina as they've been dealing with the aftermath of what Helen has done over there and how we can provide that help on the game on October 2nd against the Nashville Predators, and about how there's a GoFundMe going around that's been started by a fellow Carolina Hurricanes fan. And then we get to hear from Rod Brind'Amour and Sean Walker from Friday's 8-2 win against the Panthers on the first of a back-to-back over the weekend. And then we get to hear about what Rod Brind'Amour thought of Jackson Blake after Saturday's 5-4 overtime loss, and how Blake has really surged himself into being probably higher up on the depth chart of call-ups or someone who could make the roster. But before we jump into all of that, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet, and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. So, like I said, how this show is going to start out, I know we usually jump into hockey stuff really quick, but we are going to start off with how we can provide some relief to the citizens of Western North Carolina, Boone, Asheville, and the surrounding areas, and how we can do it with the Carolina Hurricanes with their community game that will be held on Wednesday, October 2nd against the Nashville Predators. And this is actually released by the Carolina Hurricanes. Doug Wharf, president of the National Hockey League's Carolina Hurricanes, today announced that all ticket revenue from Wednesday night's exhibition game against the Nashville Predators at Lenovo Center will directly benefit the relief efforts in Western North Carolina following the effects of Hurricane Helen in the region. And there, of course, they have discounted tickets, which are going to be $10 a piece. And there's a link to be provided in the description I'll leave to where you can buy the tickets for the game. That's $10. Seats to the event are available on a first-come, first-served basis, as many fans may purchase up to 6. In addition to the special discounted tickets, parking for the game will be complimentary with additional donations accepted, and the team will offer donation opportunities through select concessions and a silent auction. And furthermore, Hurricanes Holdings CEO Brian Fork has been in contact with the state and local leadership since Saturday to determine the best ways to assist the relief efforts. And the team expects to announce more details prior to Wednesday's game. So, like I said, I will leave a link in the description below on the audio side of things and on YouTube to where you can go purchase your tickets for the game on Wednesday against Nashville Predators. Like I said, tickets are $10, and all those proceeds will go to the Hurricane Helen relief to the citizens of Western North Carolina, and of course, at the game and then stuff leading up to it, there will be more announcements of how you can help out when it comes to relief for everyone over there for that game. And if you're on social media, Doug Wharf actually also made a statement of how just everything's been going on. So Doug said, so many of us have friends, family, and fond memories in Western North Carolina and upstate South Carolina. We're all starting to hear the stories about generational homes being washed away, and damage can only be described as apocalyptic and catastrophic. I'm glad we can start our assistance this week. Our team is working on ways that we can continue providing assistance throughout the year. The physical and mental recovery will take time, and it's yet to truly begin. I love that our team, from owner down, are not only behind these efforts, but actively encouraging them. And that's it's gotta give stick taps to Doug Wharf and Brian Fork and everyone over there and Tom Dunn and there with the Carolina Hurricanes for not just being able to help out, but they're like starting ways to helping you out. And that's what it's going to be when it comes to the discounted tickets from the game on Wednesday against the Nashville Predators. They're $10, but all those proceeds are going to go in help of relief and then being able to, be able to give more back at the game itself as well. And so there is another link I'll leave in the description. It's a GoFundMe that was started by Kane's Stat Brand, by Sterling Ebby, and he's looking to raise $1,997 on the behalf of Carolina Hurricanes fans for the American Red Cross for Hurricane Help and Relief in Western North Carolina. So, like I said, I will be providing a link for that as well in the description below. If you are able to donate, that would be really beneficial and that would really help out everyone in Western North Carolina and help out being able to raise the $1,997 goal that Kane Stat Brand, aka Sterling, has kind of set out for there. So if you can be able to do that, please do. I know I donated some money, just to be able to help out fellow North Carolinians and just being able to do whatever part you can. So if you can, that we really appreciate just be able to go and do something like that. So like I said, I'll leave links in the descriptions for the discounted game for the Carolina Hurricanes for the community game against Nashville on Wednesday, October 2nd. And I will also leave a link in the description for the audio and the YouTube side things to go check out the GoFundMe. Like I said, if you can donate, great. If you can't, at least share the link so that way you're able to help fellow Carolinians in Western North Carolina, and even hopefully we can do upstate South Carolina as well, because it's just devastating to see the videos and just reading all the stories that are going on with towns that you would never think would be affected by a hurricane, especially with how they're like 300-400 miles inland in elevation so high you wouldn't think hurricanes would affect them, but unfortunately it's just 1 in 1,000 year things that happens, and it's just really sad. And definitely sending out some prayers, and hopefully the efforts start to help and rebuild communities and help them get back on their feet. It's devastating to see stuff like this happen. So like I said, if you're able to help in any way you can, if it's going to the game or donating to the American Red Cross at the GoFundMe, or just being able to share the links, and hopefully other people can be able to find a way to help themselves, or even if you want to buy tickets and then donate them, whatever you can to help. Just any little thing could be able to help out the families in Western North Carolina and upstate South Carolina have been dealing with a lot of stuff that's been going on. So there's no easy way to transition from a tough subject like this, but make sure to stick around as we're going to go into Hurricanes talk, as we get to hear from Rod Brindamore and Sean Walker from the Hurricanes 8-2 win on Friday night for their first playoff game at home at Lenovo Center in their 8-2 win against the Florida Panthers. So stick around as we get to hear from both of those guys here in a second on a Monday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. All right, guys, we got to talk about Gametime. And Gametime has a new feature called Gametime Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Gametime Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. The one good thing I really like about Gametime is the fact that you get these great panoramic view seats in your app, so that way you know what you're looking at before you even buy the tickets itself. But the good thing with Gametime Picks that I also like is that it's a curation to make it easier to save more, not just on sports, but concerts, comedy series, and so much more. And they also have this really cool feature called all-in pricing. But with the all-in pricing, you've got to make sure that you have to turn on this feature by toggling it, and that when you do, it shows your total up front with no surprise fees at checkout. Now, remember when I said their seat view finder is really amazing? Well, when you go to your panoramic review from your seat in the app, you can actually see what you're going to be looking at before you get to the event itself. So no obstructed views, no weird angles, nothing like that. You can know what you're going to go see from your seat in the app, because in the end, you really want to take the guesswork out of buying tickets, and you can do that with Gametime. So download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL. That's LOCKEDON NHL for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What is it? Well, it's Gametime. Welcome back to segment 2 of Locked On Hurricanes, your team every day. Second to end of segment 1, we're going to be listening to Rod Brind'Amour and Sean Walker as they discussed their post-game press conferences with media after their 8-2 win against the Florida Panthers for their first preseason game at home at Lenovo Center back on last Friday. So without further ado, let's listen to Rod Brind'Amour and Sean Walker.
The lineups are what they are in a game like this, but it has to be at least good to see your new guys kind of get a good feeling going, get some points.
Well, they played well, the new guys, especially the back end. I thought Walks and Ghost were really, moving it well and seamless. It seemed like but you said it. I mean, the opponent, they obviously dressed most of their minor league guys, and so it should look like that. But at the end of the day, I thought we did a pretty good job.
Is that the Stahl line wasn't already as good as fortunate he had someone like William Carey who's just as big and as strong and hard to get off the puck?
Yeah, he's a good fit. We knew that. I mean, that was, we knew what was going to happen with Quickie there. So, it's a real good replacement. Just fits in really well, and I think he'll just get better and better once he gets accustomed to kind of how things go.
As a coach, is a guy like Roslovic really valuable because of all the different things he can do? He's a guy who plays with really good players, or you can play him as a checker if you need to.
Well, he's got a lot of skill, and he's been in the league a long time. He has played, like you said, with the top of the top players in the league, and kind of probably all in between. And he can play all 3-4 positions, which those are real good assets. And so again, we're still it's one game, trying to get a good feel for the player, but obviously he's a good one.
Seems like you can't have too many Slavens. Josiah had a pretty strong game out there too.
Yeah, that was cool. First of all, get him in the same game, and then have him get the first one right off the bat. And he played well tonight. He was, he's a big body, and you need that, right? You can't have all the little guys. It doesn't work. So it's nice to see some of these big guys that can contribute.
It's nice to see Ryan Suzuki healthy, and it looks like, he looked like a mature player out there.
Yep, that's a good observation. I mean, he's, been in our organization for a while, and I thought, like you said, he looked very, very comfortable tonight.
That 24 kid, is he gonna make it?
24, yeah. He better. They're paying him a ton of money.
But I imagine it's good to just kind of get good feeling going in your first game here.
Yeah, it was great. I think we, despite the score, we did a lot of things right that we wanted to make sure we were bringing to our game. And, it is preseason, but we're happy with the result.
So practice is one thing, but how do you feel you're playing with Ghost is working out? How do you feel you guys are connecting?
Yeah, I think it's good. There's a lot of communication out there. I think we both have the same mindset. Want to get pucks going north and then have some fun in the ozone. I think we did that tonight.
And system-wise, everyone says it's, as a defenseman, it's tough to come here and learn this. Is it good to actually apply what you've seen in video and stuff and be able to do it live action?
Yeah, absolutely. But, I think coaching staff's done a great job of implementing all the systems in practice, and I think everyone's buying in. It's pretty easy to see what they want to do, and I think all the new guys have done a great job of buying into the system, and it worked well tonight.
Nice flat pass from Burns either.
Yeah, I'll take that all the time. I don't mind that at all.
Not a full barn, but what was your first taste of being here with home crowd of Lenovo?
Yeah, it was great. Obviously preseason, but still a great crowd out there, and the energy obviously was up. We scored a lot of goals for them, so I think it was a great experience. Looking forward to it.
Big thank you to the Hurricanes and Rod Brind'Amour and Sean Walker. And just hearing from them and just the fact that you're already seeing the chemistry that's been formed by Shane Gostisbehere and Sean Walker, which thankfully, to some help of some Hurricanes fans on X, we're calling it the Ghost Walker. Just the fact we had Ghost and Walks. And, with Walker and his nickname is Walks on the team. Of course, we got Ghost. So it's just somehow it's worked out well that we have Ghost Walker. So there it is. But honestly, a great defensive pair. You can kind of see it early, even in camp. They've been paired since day one. Usually they're the third D pair, but on Friday night they were part of the second D pair. And talking about an absolute monster of a game, just overall by the Hurricanes, like I said, they won 8-2. Almost everyone on the offensive side, other than Noel Gunler and Jordan Martin, look, everyone at least had a point. William Carrier had 2. Seth Jarvis had 2 with his 2 goals. Sebastian Aho had 2 points. And then looking at the defense, pretty much Dmitry Orlov wasn't the only one he was the only one that didn't have a point for the defense, but Slavin got 1. A lot of guys on the defense, Ghost, Sheffield, and Burns all got 2 assists in the game. And then Sean Walker with a goal and 2 assists for 3 points. Most by anyone on the team. And then Frederick Aaronson, 15-17, let 2 goals in, 882 save percentage. But honestly, looking at how good Sean Walker was, like I said, 3 points in your first game. You get your defensive pair and Gostisbehere get 2. Overall, you'll really take that if you're the Carolina Hurricanes and your fans. Of course, it was the younger side of a Panthers team in its preseason, but you want to see a team start off well, and especially when you do something like that, where you pop off for 8 goals. First home game, new name for the arena and stuff like that. And you got a lot of new guys, and a lot of them were scoring. Like I said, too, it's just you look at Carey, Carey got some points. Walker, Josiah Slavin, Jacob's brother got the first goal of the game, so you love to see that little brotherly connection with those guys. The fact that they took a photo before the game, and then first goal was Josiah, and he got to celebrate with his brother. And it's just, you look at Walker and Ghost, and just an overall dominating game for the Carolina Hurricanes, and that's something you really love to see. Like I said, it's just one of those type of games where you'll take it, where William Carey gets a goal and assist. Ryan Suzuki looked really good. He looked healthy, someone who is fighting for a spot, got an assist in the game. Just Bear Kokiniemi got an assist. I know his face-off percentage is a little bit lower than usual, but still got 50%, still really good. Go back to Ryan Suzuki's 64.7%. Seth Jarvis, 100%, can't beat that. Sebastian Aho with a 78.6, but you're looking at how you wanted this team to gel early, and that's what you're already kind of seeing in Walker and Ghost, and that it seems like they're a defensive pair that's working really well. And that's what a lot of people were worried about, and something that's always been brought up over the last few weeks going into with predictions and where the Hurricanes are going to be, what's the big question marks, and that's how are you going to replace Brady Shea and Brett Pesce as your second defensive pair on the blue line. And everyone's questioning, is this a good replacement in Ghost and Walker? And so far, yes. I mean, it's only one preseason game with them in the lineup, but pretty well when you're getting a combined 5 points out of those 2 guys, and one of them was a goal and 2 assists. The other one had 2 apples as well. So it's, you take it as a good sign. Hopefully it carries on to the season. And they even asked Walker, how is it trying to fit into a system that's kind of tough? And it's one of those things where it's one of those things you got to work on. But luckily the coaches do such a great job with video and then implementing on the ice. I mean, that's why Tim Gleason's highly revered and really respected within the organization and around the league for the fact that the Hurricanes have had structured defense year in and year out. And that's why you guys got like Brent Burns and Dmitry Orlov that's come through and do what they've done. Dougie Hamilton. Now you get Sean Walker for a second stint. You see how good Jalen Shaffield's gotten over his last few years. And just being able to, go into free agency and ask guys, hey, you want to come to Carolina? And you get Sean Walker on a 5-year deal for 3.6, and then you go get Shane Gostisbehere back for 3 years at 3.2. And then Goetz has even said, once he heard that Carolina was interested in bringing him back, he's like, all right, let's do it. So that really speaks to just the kind of the system and the culture that the Hurricanes have, or the fact that someone who got traded for left for Detroit for a year, and then the next summer is like, all right, let's do it. Let's run it back. And just the way that, Walker said it perfectly. There's constant communication between him and Ghost. They're already on the same page. They know what they need to do. And Rod's already trusted those guys for putting them in a second deep pair minutes and stuff like that. So it's a very good sign. You love to see it. You love to see the chemistry early for those 2 guys. And hopefully we see a lot of great moments from Ghost Walker this year as that defensive pair in Shane Gostisbehere and Sean Walker. So let me know what you think about the Ghost Walker nickname. That's something a lot of fans on social media has come up with for the fact we got Ghost, we got Walks, Ghost Walker. Makes total sense. I'm on board. I like it. Hopefully we get some cool merch from the Hurricanes on that one. So make sure to stick around for segment 3 as we get to hear from Rod Brind'Amour in his post-game press conference from Saturday's game from the 5-4 overtime loss against the Florida Panthers on their back-to-back home-and-home series. And he does talk about Jackson Blake for a good bit, and there's a lot to talk about with the former Homie Baker finalist from North Dakota last season. So stick around as we get to jump into all of that here in a second on a Monday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. The place you can do that, well, that's FanDuel.com. Welcome back to segment 3 of Locked On Hurricanes, your team every day. So like I said, at the segment 2, we get to hear from Rod Brind'Amour in his post-game press conference with media as they get to talk to them after Saturday's 5-4 loss in overtime against the Florida Panthers, and where he did mention Jackson Blake a good bit, and I think that's someone who's really kind of stepped up really huge in terms of the prospects in camp in the preseason so far. So without further ado, let's listen to Rod Brind'Amour and his comments with media after Saturday's game.
This morning that the score was going to be what it was going to be, but I imagine for the first 30-ish minutes you were probably pretty impressed.
I was happy with, other than 10 minutes of the game, we were pretty solid, and we gave them a couple of turnovers that led to them getting their two goals, and then they made a couple of nice plays on the other ones. But I thought in the third, once we got kind of going, we were really good too. We had a majority of the play, so it happens. I mean, a couple of young guys trying too hard on a couple of the goals, and these are great learning moments.
You mentioned trying too hard. What are some of those learning moments that you're hoping some of the younger guys take?
Yeah, well, it's the high-risk turnovers that lead to just them coming the other way, and then kind of just taking breathers on the defensive end, and then that's what ends up tapping in goals. And you're like, you got to learn from it. So it's actually, you don't want to lose the game, but it's really good teaching moments for the young group.
You've gotten to see 2 games of Jackson Blake now in person. What do you make of him thus far?
Well, he's been maybe one of the better players. I mean, if you're being honest about it, like, he's very noticeable every shift. It's not, shift here or there. He had the bulk of scoring chances and was around it, right? Like, it felt like when he was out there that something good might happen. And, he had his blemishes too, like these young guys, but it was all from, trying to put the puck in the net. Like, he's definitely a dynamic player, and plays with a little grit too, so that's good.
We've heard that long from Darren that he's an explosive type of guy when the puck's on his stick. He seems to give that jolt. How much energy can that bring to the rest of the group when you have a guy out there that just can kind of make it happen?
Yeah, well, these are special players, and we got a few of them, and they're young, so they're going to take some time. I mean, you don't want to ever rush these guys, but you can definitely see the potential, and that's exciting. And we just got to keep, doing it right and keep getting them better. But it's definitely very promising.
3 preseason games down and a rare off day tomorrow. Where is your assessment of things as you go into an important second and final full week of training?
Yeah, I think it's been good. I think guys really, they set the tone early with how well they conditioned themselves and came ready to go. And not just the veteran guys, the young guys. We had, I think, maybe 3 or 4 of the young guys in the top of the conditioning things and in our whole organization. So that's impressive. And I think it's been a good start. Obviously, it's preseason, and it is what it is. But I've been very happy with it.
Big thank you to Rod Brind'Amour and the Hurricanes and Walt Ruff, of course, for being able to provide that audio. And just hearing from Rod Brind'Amour talking about Jackson Blake, and you heard it from him. It's the fact that he's been one of the most dynamic players so far in the first, seeing him play in those 2 games, and someone who's very explosive, and just being able to do what he's done is making it very, very interesting for Rod Brind'Amour and the Canes. And of course, he even said too, like, you don't want to rush these guys. They're young. Blake's 21. Coming off a 60-point season with North Dakota where he was a Hobie Baker finalist. You don't want to rush these guys. You don't want to put them on the roster and then give them like 12, 13 minutes a game where you could see them get like 15, 16 to 18 minutes in the AHL for the Chicago Wolves. It's definitely bringing a different – it's almost giving you a Seth Jarvis-esque, like, is he going to stay? Is he going to start somewhere else at the beginning of the season? Or does he get that 9-game tryout where it's like, okay, let's see what you can do, and then, either we keep you or we send you back. But, of course, that's just going to the AHL and stuff like that. So it's like he's going back to juniors. It's just like, all right, do we give you a little bit of a runway and go from there? So it's one of those things where Blake has definitely shown himself. I mean, the goal that we saw in the game on Saturday was absolutely just an absolute snipe. Great move. Got himself to an open space, crashed the net, and just put the puck in a perfect spot. And it's one of those things where it's just, you call one of those just highlight reel, disgusting, just absolute snipe jobs. And that was a great goal by Jackson Blake in a game where you look at the Hurricanes overall, where in terms of points, it was Juha Haska who did get the most points for the forwards with a goal and assist, but Jack Drury got a goal. Jackson Blake, Gleb Cherkasov, someone who's had a really great summer, he got a goal as well. Dominic Fensora was the only defenseman to put up a point, and that was an assist. And then Spencer Martin, 24 of 29, 828 save percentage. Of course, the loss of game in overtime, but of course it's preseason hockey. It's not that big of a deal. It is what it is. But just from what we've seen in Blake in the first 2 games, and even what he did at the rookie showcase, he's really, I think, has probably stepped himself up to be the number 1 prospect that could make some noise coming out of camp, and someone who could really make a strong argument to be on the opening night roster. Now, could it be top 9? Maybe. It just depends on the Hurricanes believe that he's someone who's done enough to move William Carrier off the third line, or you move Jack Roslovic down. But, of course, with how they're liking Roslovic with Nietzsche's and Kotkaniemi, of course, we only see them for 1 game, but it looked really well for the most part. And it seems like Carrier's fit in really well with the Jordans, too. So, yeah, could you put Jackson Blake on a 4th line? You could. It's just one of those things where you got to really figure out how you're going to balance the minutes for the team, because if you're giving Blake 11, 12 minutes a game, is that really helping him out, where you could give him 15 to 18 minutes in Chicago? I wouldn't be surprised if he starts the season in Chicago with the Wolves and with Cam Abbott and just getting those top line minutes with. It could be a Brylan Nadeau and Felix Unger-Sorum, or it's Nadeau, Ryan Suzuki, and Blake, which wouldn't be a bad first line either. So it just depends on what the Hurricanes wanted to do. If he is on the 4th line, then you put him with maybe a Brendan Lemieux, Jack Drury, and Jackson Blake. That would be a very nasty, sneaky 4th line. Even Robinson, Drury, and Blake wouldn't be bad either. So however you want to interchange the left wing, either Lemieux or Robinson with Drury and Blake, that could be a very, like I said, a very sneaky 4th line who could bring some grit, bring some extra power, and bring some oomph to that bottom 6. Where you look at that 3rd line where it's just big bodies, throwing some checks, scoring here and there and stuff like that with the Jordans and Carrier. So if you want to get a 4th line where you roll out that 4th line that could throw the body but also score some goals, because we've seen that Jack Drury did it last year. Brendan Lemieux could put up some sneaky goals too when he needs to, but also is not afraid to throw the body. Of course, 3 of those guys are not afraid to fight. So if you do put Jackson Blake on that 4th line and you give him 14, 15 minutes a night to where it's serviceable to not hinder his growth, then yeah, putting him there with Drury and Lemieux, let's say, not a bad 4th line, all things considered. You look at other 4th lines around the league. So let me know what you think in the comments. Do you think Jackson Blake should start the season in Carolina, or do you give him like a few games to try it out, then send him back? Or does he start the season in Chicago? So I'm curious to see what your thoughts are on how the Hurricanes should roll with Jackson Blake. I think, for me personally, I think he's put himself in a spot where he's making himself probably the number 1 guy to look at in terms of call-ups for the Canes if he starts the season in Chicago. But that will wrap up a Monday edition of Locked On Hurricane. So, like I said, I will leave links in the description for the audio and YouTube side of things where you can help out with the relief over in Western North Carolina. Also, let me know in the comments how you feel about Ghost Walker as the nickname for Gosh's pair and Walker's defensive pairing. And let me know what you think what the Hurricanes should do with Jackson Blake come opening night on October 11th against the Tampa Bay Lightning. If you want to keep up everything that I'm doing in terms of my Carolina Hurricanes and Chicago Wolves coverage, make sure to go to thehockeywriters.com and check all that out. You can follow me at OneTrueZach on X. The podcast is LO_Hurricanes. I do have a link tree to where you can find the articles and also find links to my other podcasts, the Searchcast, along with links to this podcast as well. Or, of course, if you just want to go search for it, we're on all podcast platforms at Locked On Hurricanes. Same thing for YouTube, Locked On Hurricanes there. Make sure to hit subscribe. Hit the bell notifications so you don't miss a show. Hit the thumbs up button. Let me know you like the show as well, because it's a huge thank you for making Locked On Hurricanes your first listen of the day. Now, for the second listen, go find Locked On AHL, where local experts keep you updated daily on all the biggest storylines ahead of the season. Find Locked On AHL on YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts. That being said, like, just a big thank you to everyone who's listened to the show. We make sure to share the podcast with other everydayers, or all other Caniacs who become everydayers just like you, because we are very close to 990 subscribers. We are on the road to 1,000. And when we hit 1,000 subscribers, I might just do something special for you guys. Hope everyone enjoyed the Monday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. Hope everyone enjoys their Monday. And until next time, as always, let's go Canes.